Hello and welcome back to Imperfect Parenting. Of course, it's the top of the month, so that means we've got our dear friend Seth Dahl is with us.
Pastor Seth Dahl.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. Back again. For all the hipsters out there.
Hipsters.
All of them. And we are having a good time. We laugh a lot in between takes. You guys just don't get in on that. And I do think that we should make a release every year, kind of the blooper reels or
things we say behind the scenes.
I think so.
It would be funny.
Yeah.
It would be great.
Yeah. So, all right, we do have a meme for us, and I just want to take a moment and recognize that Ben is Australian.
Thank you.
In case you didn't know.
He should read this one even though he doesn't want to, but he should because he's Australian. And the way he says it is so great.
You are hearing part of the conversation before we went live here. And they're quietly making fun of me, and I'm okay with it because I love them.
No, we're not.
What's the word, Ben? What's the word we're going to say here?
You guys say it first for contrast.
Banana.
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 Banana or banana? Where I hail from, we say banana. And that's one of the 3 words I've kept in this country. So I'm trying to own it here. We've been married
for a really long time, and you came over when you were really young.
I was 18.
And you only had a house full of Americans.
You changed me.
And so everyone said, what?
Huh?
Say that again. So Ben started changing all his words, which is why
Have you seen my car? Your what? My car. My car. You do that for 20 years and things change.
But he has a few words.
Banana is one of them. So I'm going to read this meme all about bananas. Just to remind everyone, or myself mostly, that I'm from Australia. One of the guys in this room is from England too. So we share the Commonwealth history together, which I appreciate. Here we go. Toddler to-do list. This is the meme. Toddler, ask for banana. Number 2, refuse banana. Number 3, ask why banana was taken away. Number 4, cry because they don't have banana. Banana.
Bananas in pajamas.
Oh, God.
That's all I can think about right now.
I love it. See? This is good.
That I would say banana because I'm going to sing the song how they sing it.
Yes.
But
I think that's an English
I don't know.
cartoon.
Or the Wiggles fruit salad.
The Wiggles.
Yummy. Banana.
But back to the meme. Thank you for going on that little ride with us, everybody. Of my need to feel Australian for a moment.
Yeah.
This is how toddlers act, right? And Brittany calls it the trenches. This is trench work right here.
It was either this meme or another one that said something about being a parent is the blend between the world's greatest peacemaker and guerrilla warfare. And I thought that feels accurate. So this is a little bit of both. Here's your banana. Okay, so you throw the banana. All right, normally refuse the banana is that they've chucked it across the room.
And now you're crying to have the banana. Yeah. I'm confused.
I've had, I remember our kids, I think it was Adeline. She would squeeze the banana in her hand and it would just ooze between her fingers. And then she'd be mad that it wasn't whole anymore. I'm like, I don't know how to teach you to not do that. Like, you're just, it probably felt
like it for yourself.
Yeah. And then she'd be all mad that it wasn't really edible. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Yeah, you're right.
Making our own baby food.
It's now a smoothie. Enjoy. You want a straw? I don't know.
Yeah.
So kids are funny, to say the least. Kids are funny. But so we all just took a trip to Taiwan together.
We did.
It was really fun. I guess it wasn't recent, but it was in March? No.
Yeah. May. It's supposed to be March.
It was supposed to be March. So we were there and we came in early. We did a marriage or relationship thing and then spoke at a church. And then we met up with Seth and the 3 of us did a parenting conference. And we had a great time.
We could spend this whole episode just talking about food.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We won't.
We did not eat bananas, but we ate pretty much everything else. You guys eat everything else except bananas. Bananas.
How'd you keep a straight face when you did that?
Man.
We did. The three of us did share dinner one night. We ate this century egg together. That was a moment of.
It's actually not 1,000 years old because I asked that
7.
question. Where does the name come from?
Yeah.
But it is black. It's a black egg.
It is black. It tastes like it's 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
Ben, I didn't want you to send me that picture the other day. I didn't want you to remind me about the black egg, but you did.
Yeah.
I sent it to Seth and said, "Do you miss this?" He said, "I don't miss that, but I miss Taiwan."
If you want a picture of the black egg, then you got to message us and I'll send it to you.
There you go.
But that's not what we're talking about. I was trying to say that we went to Taiwan. We had a great time. It was super fun. We all shared on different things that we're passionate about. Ben and I shared the last night, and and then we did an altar call, and all three of us were praying over them. Seth was leading them in prayer time. It was amazing,
really
super powerful to see what God's doing in Taiwan for families, and really the shift. I think the shift with Gen Z and Alpha coming up, and the digital world that is on their heels, I think is going to change a little bit of the dynamic of some of the culture that they've done for centuries. So we were really honored to be there to pour into how do we connect well with this next generation and not scare them away with fear of punishment and control. But Seth has been talking about this, and you've got a couple things that you could tell people about of where to get more information. But I thought this would be a really great spot to just expand the topic that you covered, and we can share our experience and what we took away from it and learned. So this is really Seth's podcast today on this topic, but it's emotional intelligence is basically the quickest way to describe what we're going to talk about. But again, Seth, I love when you were there, what you're bringing to the people of Taiwan and into the homes of families, something that has been missing. It's been longed for, and even the correct way and how to foster this so that we don't just give into the emotions mean everything and you should do exactly what they tell you to do immediately with full expression. So please
take it away.
Yeah. Take it away.
Yeah. Emotions, it's interesting. I think whenever Ben and Brittany and I do anything together, a lot of the questions, a lot of the things with parents are really questions about symptoms and less about the system. And that's, connection, love, not using fear, not using punishment is like, let's address the system, not the symptoms only. But a lot of the questions that we get and a lot of the interactions we have are very symptomatic. And how do I fix this symptom? Well, to me, emotions are very much addressing the system because, like we've talked about probably many times in here, you can use the right tool from Brittany's book, from any book that has good tools. You can use the right tool, but have the wrong emotions with it, and you use the tool incorrectly just so you can control better, or you can punish better, or you can get your kids to do whatever you want them to do. But what's underneath all of that is emotions, is what we feel. And in the English language, I had to explain this in Taiwan. In the English language, the way we define emotions is energy and motion. So any emotion we have is connected to the emotional world. And any motion we don't have, energy, emotions give us energy for motion. They also give us energy to take away, or they reduce the energy and take away our motion. So they're pretty much involved in everything. Every word we say to our kids or our spouse is empowered by emotion. So it's in everything that we're doing. It's in every interaction that we have. But some of what we talked about there, I didn't have enough sessions to go into it. This is it's a big process to talk through this stuff. And a lot of what we're seeing right now in society, especially with young adults and teenagers and stuff, is that, we started to learn about emotions and how we feel and all this, because for a lot of generations, they were totally disconnected from this world altogether. They just shoved their emotions down. They just held them down. They never expressed them. They never processed them. They never got rid of them. They just kept going, kept moving forward. And so we started learning about this and getting into this. And now we have a whole bunch of people that think emotions are everything. Like, well, if
Mhm.
I feel like I'm a boy today, then I'm a boy. And if I feel like I'm a girl tomorrow, then I'm a girl tomorrow. And whatever I feel is the most important thing. And so it's something we want to be really, really healthy about. We actually want to be super intelligent about this because it's in everything we do, and it's been corrupted quite a bit. Not in not too many recent years. So there's three elements I think to really be emotionally healthy. And the first element is completing our past emotions. You know, all of us as parents, you're probably a parent listening to the Imperfect Parenting podcast, but all of us as parents, we had our own childhood with our own parents, and we often are still carrying around with us the emotions that we had from our own upbringing. And that's why it's really hard. You know, we talked about this a bunch. It's why it's really hard. Well, this is the way I was raised. And so either that's exactly what I'm going to do, or this is the way I was raised. And so I'm going to do the opposite. Man, that's all signs of the emotional stuff that we're still carrying from our own childhood. And so a huge part of this is completing our past emotions, like processing out the emotions from our own childhood. And so I'm going to just give you a few tips on this. Again, I can't give you everything because this is a half an hour podcast, and this is actually going to become a 6-month course that I do for parents.
Love
That
it.
we're going to meet every week for 6 months, at least 6 months. And I've done a bunch of some of this stuff already in previous courses, but I'm going to put it all together in a 6-month weekly course. But completing past emotions, the first thing we need to know is that all of us have myths, or I like to call them spells, that were kind of put on us when it comes to emotions. And here are some of them. Don't feel bad
Mhm.
is one. And, you know, so like you have a bad day when you were a kid and your mom's like, don't feel bad. It's going to be fine. And we're taught, actually, the statistic is somewhere by the time a kid is 15 years old, they've heard over 23,000 messages that sad or painful emotions they should not express, they should not talk about, they should not show.
Hmm.
And so don't feel bad is probably the most common myth. One example we like to give is a little kid comes home from school, had a really bad day with a kid in class, and mom's like, don't feel bad, have a cookie. And so they eat the cookie, and they don't necessarily feel better, but they feel different. And right there, they're told, don't feel bad. And this happens to a lot of us as parents, or it happened to us a lot. Don't feel bad. Another one is replace the loss. So, like, you know, you drop your ice cream cone and mom's like, don't feel bad. I'll buy you another one. It's not a big deal. And to the kid, that's their whole world because they just got this ice cream cone. They're so pumped. They drop it and we try to replace it. Or a pet dies and we're like, we'll just buy you another cat. It's going to be fine. Don't feel bad. We'll buy you another cat. Don't worry. We'll buy you another cat. So right there, you see both those myths or both those spells playing in. And what they're teaching us is not to process our emotions, but to shove them down. Another common myth that people believe is time is going to heal it.
Hmm.
And time actually doesn't heal anything. It's proper actions taken in time. It's what we do in time that heals or doesn't heal what's going on. Another example we like to give is if you got a flat tire, you don't pull over on the side of the road and wait for time to fix your flat tire. No, you pop the trunk, you get the tools out, you get the spare out, you change it. When you call AAA or you call a tow truck and you have somebody else work on it, because you know time's not going to fix the flat tire. I actually have to do something. I actually have to have tools. I actually have to do something in time to bring about healing. So that's one thing we have to realize when it comes to completing our past emotions is we have myths around emotions that need to be broken. And for parents, one thing we got to realize is whatever myths that we've believed when we were growing up will tend to be the myths that we pass on to our kids. So if I believed replace the loss is a good way to deal with your negative emotions and your painful emotions, then I will perpetuate that with my children. And I have a bunch of kids, my kids will think that buying a new one, getting another one is going to make it better. And it doesn't. So So there's some myths. The other thing we need to realize is we all have STURBs. Like in a recent episode that we did a month ago, I mentioned STURBs, short-term energy relieving behaviors, which is when we are emotional, when we have unprocessed emotions, we go to behaviors. Some of them are obvious: alcohol, drugs, porn, can all be short-term energy relieving behaviors. If I feel disconnected from my wife, it's really easy to go to porn and feel different. Like, okay, but that doesn't actually help you process the emotions. It actually just piles them on even more, because now you're going to add a bunch of guilt, you're going to add a bunch of shame, you're going to add a bunch of regret into your life, and you're going to feel horrible, even though you felt a little bit different in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
But STURBs, alcohol, drugs, porn, stuff like that. But some of them are like exercise, sleeping. In the Christian world, there's a lot of people. I'll just say this out loud for everyone to hear. There's a lot of people that serve in church as a short-term energy relieving behavior. They're loaded down with fear. They're loaded down with guilt. They're loaded down with all these unprocessed emotions going on. And so they sign up for everything at church, all these different places in church, and they're working, serving everywhere, trying to feel better by what they do. And so all of us have STURBs that we go to. But if we don't realize that we have those, we actually can't do anything different, and we will continue to shove our emotions down and not process out our emotions. And then those emotions will play out in how we parent our own kids. We will use those emotions in our parenting. And so myths and STURBs are a huge part. But here's 3 tools that we need to know when it comes to completing our past emotions. The church is really, really good at one of them. Obviously, forgiveness is a huge part. If you have a bunch of unforgiveness towards your parents because of the way they raised you, then you will have a lot of reaction going on in how you raise your kids. And you invite torment into your life. The church is really good at this. Matthew in the Bible talked about the unforgiving servant. And we're really good at communicating how important forgiveness is, why it's necessary. And if you don't forgive, you get torment. It's like, but that's just one of the areas in completing our past emotions. It's one of the areas of getting emotionally healthy is forgiveness. But the other 2 are just as important and crucial to being emotionally healthy when it comes to how we parent our children. And that is apologies and significant emotional statements. Here's what happens when emotional health all comes down to whether or not we can deliver communications of an emotional nature. So if I am a grown up and I've never communicated to my parents the apologies that I have. Now, I'm not saying you have to talk to your parents, like maybe they died, maybe they passed on. I'm not saying you have to communicate it to them, but you have to be able to communicate out of your mouth and have somebody hear you the apologies. You got to take ownership for the stuff that you did, not just forgive them for the stuff that they did, but you've got to apologize for the stuff that you did. And then you've got to have thank yous or gratefulness in your heart towards the other things. That's what brings total emotional health is apologies, forgives, and significant emotional statements, which are usually thank you. So I'm going to give you an example from my life. I was working on my relationship with my parents growing up. My parents were divorced when I was a baby, so I lived with my mom most of my life. And so I have the most history with my mom, and my dad just wasn't around. He lived somewhere else. But I'm going through my relationship with my mom, and I realized when I was 5 years old, I caught this lizard, this just a little California lizard. I lived in Sacramento, and I caught this lizard, and its tail broke off. And I was so pumped because I was like, I finally get to watch a lizard grow its tail back. And so my mom comes to pick me up from preschool, and I have this lizard with no tail in my hand, and I'm so excited. And my mom goes over to the garbage can and gets a milk jug and brings it over. I put my lizard in the milk jug, and I'm so excited. My ultimate dream has just come true. I get to watch the lizard's tail grow back. But as I'm reviewing my relationship with my mom, as I'm reviewing my emotions from my own childhood, I realize I never said thank you to my mom. Or if I did, I don't remember it. And I was like, I I actually need to communicate this to her. And so I messaged my mom and I was like, Mom, I was just remembering when I was 5 years old and I caught that lizard and you got me a milk jug. I just want to tell you, Mom, that meant the world to me. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, Mom. And what it did was it helped my mom feel seen by me, feel known by me. And the way it's played out over the last several months is little things like that. Delivering significant emotional statements, saying thank you, saying that meant the world to me, saying I saw that when you did that has brought a level of connection with me and my mom that is beyond what we've ever had, what I've ever had with her, by simply saying thank you for things. So forgiveness is obviously a huge part. We're really good at that. What we're not so good at is owning our stuff and apologizing and saying thank you for things. But those are three areas that are absolutely necessary to complete our past emotions, so we're not carrying them in to our parenting with our own children. So I don't know if you know this, but when you have kids, there's a lot of emotions flying around inside of you, a lot of emotions flying around in your kids. You hand them the banana or the banana and they refuse it. And then they're mad at you for taking away the banana, but they're the ones that refused it, or they squeezed it in their hands and they're mad that they can't eat it. Like, okay, there's emotions everywhere. And we've got to get good at processing out our present emotions, completing the emotions of the past, processing out our emotions in the present. And that obviously comes down to talking about them. You know, we're really good at expressing emotions. We're not so good at processing our emotions. And I know we've shared this on the podcast before a long, long time ago, but if you imagine yourself like a gun, I know this might be a weird topic for some people, but it's just the reality of it. Because whenever we're talking about emotions, people say, I was triggered by this. My kid did this and I was so triggered. So, well, that means you're like a gun. So imagine you're like a gun and you have a trigger and your gun is fully loaded with bullets and you can't pull the magazine out. Your gun is going to be fully loaded. If that's the case, there's only two ways to get the bullets out. One is to pull the trigger and fire the bullets out of the barrel. The other is to pull the slide, rack the slide, and you can eject the bullets out of the top of the gun and never pull the trigger once, but now the gun is empty. That's the difference between expressing emotions and processing emotions. A lot of us, when we feel angry, we yell, we get upset. You can feel the frustration in our voice. When our kids get angry, you can feel it in their voice. You can hear it. It is an expression of emotions. But here's what happens as parents. If we don't learn to switch from expressing to processing, it's like we're blowing holes all throughout our house. Think about this. If you had a loaded gun in your house and you're pulling the trigger, anytime something goes off, anytime something's happening, you start pulling the trigger in your house, you can do a lot of damage to the people in your home. You can also blow holes in the walls. You can blow windows out. Not only that, because you're pulling the trigger and firing a gun, everyone goes deaf. So when we're expressing the emotions inside of us instead of processing them, it makes it harder for people to hear us. It makes it harder for people to listen to us. There are so many parents that have said, my kid just doesn't listen. My kid just doesn't hear me. No matter how many times I try to talk to them, they don't hear me. It's like, well, probably because you're expressing emotions all over and they've gone completely deaf, because it's kind of like you pulled the trigger and fired the gun over and over in the house. And now their ears are ringing so loud, they can't hear anything you're saying.
Yeah.
And so not only do people have a harder time listening to us, but if we blow holes in them, wow, now we got a lot of healing we got to do, because we blow emotional holes in our family. But also, if we're blowing holes in the walls and blowing out windows because we're pulling the trigger, expressing our emotions on everyone around us in our home, now the outside atmosphere can come in. And I don't care if you have the AC set to 70 degrees, 65 degrees, whatever you keep your AC set at. If the windows are blown out, the outside temperature is coming in. Totally. And the world, if we are expressing emotions instead of processing them, we're basically inviting the atmosphere of the world to come into our home and remove the atmosphere of heaven that God wants to have in our home. But if we learn to process our emotions, nobody goes deaf. Everyone can hear each other. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody gets injured. Actually, everybody feels a lot of safety because they go, wow, you could have hurt me there, and you ejected those bullets instead of shot me. And you didn't blow holes in the wall. We actually protect the environment of heaven in our homes by learning to process our emotions, which means we talk about our emotions instead of talking with our emotions.
Well, that's
So that's
so
the
good.
second phase. Sorry, Brittany.
I was going to say, I think, again, this is why you have a course coming out, because we don't have enough time. And we watched you in Taiwan talking about this, and you had 3 sessions, and I'm like, I know he's just scratching the surface of this stuff. And you weren't able to do it with him. But I just kind of want to, because we are running out of time, which, again, I love when somebody's passionate about something, because they just go, and all that you said was really powerful. I think a couple of things that stood out to me was, you talked about forgiveness. I think is one of the first steps that you're, and then an apology, and then thankful.
Yeah.
And what I hear in there is like, as soon as we can return back to joy, that's where peace is. And so the process in which you're talking about is like these steps that are required as parents. There's so many other pieces in there, but processing our emotions, and actually being engaged with what's going on is the road to healing if we want to foster something different in our home from what we grew up with.
Yeah.
That's that's one of the big takeaways that I'm hearing you say, which is why I wanted you to speak about it, because I think right now you're right. Mental disorder, being labeled as that, or anxiety, is at an astronomical level now for teens and early 20s. It's crazy. And so they have learned to express their emotions, but they're not really processing it. They've just now discovered, I'm tired that we weren't allowed to talk about it. Here we are, but they don't know what to do with it. So it's just like this, it's oozing out of them. And I'm like, I don't know how to help you. So that's the part that I think, I'm barely a millennial, but I think my role of leadership and responsibility is I have to figure out, how do I do this well so we can teach the next generation that is going to look for this. Do we know how to help them do it well?
Yeah.
And I think part of the mental health and one of the key points I'm thinking about as you're talking, Seth, is the STURBs. So we called it the short-term emotional relief behaviors. There we go. Yeah, just that idea right there. I think part of the mental health crisis we're in is because people are not tuning into their own STURBs, the things I'm using to perpetuate the problem.
Yeah.
So even if that's the only takeaway for some people, what Brittany's talking about, the forgiveness, the healing, getting back to joy, or what is my STURB? What's the short-term solution I'm using that's not actually solving the problem? But just to reiterate real quick, just for people that are curious and want to go on this journey with Seth, or go on their own journey and start discovering stuff, the 3 areas you're talking about are completing past emotions, processing present emotions, and then the last one that you didn't mention yet was
preventing future emotions, which is all about renewing our mind, because basically every emotion that generates inside our brain comes from our sense of identity. And so if I've grown up in a certain culture, if I've grown up in a certain way, in a certain style of parenting, wherever I grew up, I formed my beliefs about who I am. And all of those beliefs about who I am will decide what emotions can generate inside me. And so the more we actually renew our mind to our true identity, the more we'll grow the emotions, generate the emotions that God provides for us, which, think about the fruit of the Holy Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness. Like, those are very connected to emotional states.
Yeah.
And if we want to grow those, we've got to learn to line up and actually repent and adjust our beliefs around who we are, so that we can minimize and lower the uncomfortable emotions that are showing up in our home right now and bring in a whole bunch of better emotions like joy and peace in our homes. And so preventing future emotions is the last part.
Yeah.
But it's all about renewing our mind and lining up our identity with who God actually says we are, not how we were raised, not how we grew up, not what anyone else told us, but what God says about us. So yeah, that's the 3 elements to, I'm calling it the emotionally whole family.
I love it.
Come on.
We've been on this journey as a family for a while, and some of this stuff has radically helped us in everything that we're doing. Because to go back to it, it's addressing the system, not the symptoms.
Yeah.
It's addressing the energy underneath the tools, the energy underneath the words that we use, the energy that's empowering everything that we're doing. It's addressing that symptom, not that symptom. It's addressing that system instead of the system.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, again, we would talk about this all day long.
And it's so timely, and it's so important that we tune into what Seth's talking about, especially as parents.
Yeah.
Because our kids are either going to express or process, and we want to give them the right option.
Yeah. And parents are either going to express or process. And
absolutely.
So we need to be able to be true leaders in our home, which, we love talking about being leaders in your home.
And talking about inducing emotions and creating good emotions or potentially hard ones. I keep thinking about our sponsors by talking today. I'm like, family vacation either brings wonderful emotions, great present or future emotions, or it brings up really scary old ones or present ones. So
it's true. We were actually at the fair, and we were with Brendan. Their little 6-year-old daughter got on this ride, and saw the ride. It was one of those ones that takes you up really, really high and then it just drops you. And mom grabs her because she was with the older sister before she gets buckled in, like right then. And she's like, this is what traumatizes you. Is I still am traumatic. So I'm like, speaking about it.
Yep.
But if you are looking to go on family vacation, whether it's to the county fair or to the beach, because every vacation Ben takes is at the beach, rinseforbaby.com, and that's for the number, is a great place to go to find what it is that you're looking for to make your trip a little bit easier, to not have to think about all the little small things that add up to a lot of things. It's kind of like if you don't process your emotions, you end up with all this baggage. What a more beautiful way Rinse for Baby wants to be your ability to process the emotions and show up into this refreshing space. And they have taken care of you.
Taking all the baggage with you.
I know.
They take it away.
They show up to your location, set up. They will even set up your things for you. So it's basically like as if they went to Seth's class, but just in baby gear for vacation. So rinseforbaby.com. And if you put Imperfect Parenting, you get a little bit of a discount.
Great.
Awesome. Well, Seth, thanks so much for being with us and chatting.
Seth's episode.
It was the Seth episode for sure.
We love
it
this.
Was great. And I look forward to this coming out, and we'll keep you posted where you can find it when he's ready.
Yep. Awesome.
Good.
Again, I'll see you next month too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Seth.
All right, everybody. We'll see you later, Ipsters.